So here we are, as full-time RVers at over 180 days spent inside of this RV. We've been all over the country so far, and we've put on just about 10,000 miles. We've learned a lot over the past 6 months, and really loved most of it. But not everything, and we did make 2 pretty big changes already. Today we're going to cover the layout on things we like, things we'd like to change. I'll go over the outside. We'll talk about driving this thing around the country, fuel mileage, is 4x4 even necessary, and we'll talk about some warranty stuff too. This video is going to be our version of a 6-month review of this Dynamax Isata 6 4x4, in which we're halfway through our 12-month partnership and long-term review.
Okay, so the very first thing we love about this is this, being back in a motorhome and being in one complete unit, the dogs, us, all of us, you know, and not being separated in a towable.
It's a more exciting way for us to travel, and it's really just one of our favorite things about this.
Yeah, so we have a lot of things to cover today. We're gonna try to keep it moving and share as much information as we can in this 6-month review. So far, driving this thing has been easy, as we've shown through our vlogs, but we didn't know that it was gonna be that easy at first. It was something we were hoping it was gonna be easy, but at 34 feet long, you know, 22,000 pounds, 12 and a half feet tall, how easy was it gonna be? I think we found out pretty quickly.
Very easy. And the short length definitely helps. Not having a towed vehicle behind us definitely helps. The tight turning radius definitely helps. The diesel engine feels great. All of those things matter when it comes to driving.
Yeah, a lot of people wonder why you'd even get a Class C over a Class A. And I think that is one of the big reasons, is like the easy drivability. You're in the cab of a Ford Super Duty right now.
Yeah, and there is something to be said about the big truck engine and the big compartment in front of you.
Yeah, safety's the other
It
thing.
makes me feel safer knowing that if we get in a head-on collision, we have, what is that, 6 feet of crushed stuff? That's
Diesel engine.
Yeah, we have all those components that are going to get hit before our bodies.
And we have safety airbags that are controlled, you know, by the automotive industry, which is highly regulated, if you will. And so there's all these like safety features. And I'm not saying Class A's aren't safe, but you know, it's a different beast. You know, the Class C on the already automotive body is just, it's different. It has these things already built in from the manufacturer. So a couple quick things we can talk about while driving. Miles per gallon, we did that video when we first got in this thing, we headed west. This computer was showing 14.5 miles per gallon driving. We were fully loaded, not towing, and that really blew us away.
Yeah.
We didn't stay at 14.5. Once we got out west, you know, it kind of went down a little bit more, around 12 miles per gallon.
It definitely did.
We actually just cleared the lifetime miles per gallon on this thing kind of by accident. 11.5, and that includes all of the idling time and all of the slow sitting there.
Yeah.
11.5 miles per gallon lifetime on the trip of this thing. So 4-wheel drive was something I wanted to touch on really quick. I'm a little embarrassed, but we haven't even put it in 4-wheel drive. You know, you should like lubricate your 4-wheel drive system by just using it once in a while when you're off pavement. And we had a few opportunities to do that, and I didn't really even think about it. So we haven't had to use 4-wheel drive yet, but it's nice that we have that as an option if something were to come about. We've had a couple of areas where it was raining for heavy downpours, and you know, we might have needed to use it there if we had to leave at that exact time, you know, before it dried out.
Yeah, for sure. It's again one of those things where you're just glad you have it.
Yeah.
In the event where you need it, you're glad to have it. And it's one of those things, it draws a lot of attention. People walk by this thing and start talking to us all the time. This is a head cranker, and the 4-wheel drive is often something that throws people off, and they're just so excited to see it.
So the big thing that we would maybe change, you know, in the drivability of this thing, or that would be a big change, would be towing something behind it.
Yeah.
And that is something that I would say the majority of RVers do. we chose to not tow something, right away. But, that's got to inevitably change at some point, right? More to come on that soon.
Yeah, and a big part of that decision for us was we wanted to get a feel for this Class C on its own, as is, without having that extended towed vehicle on it, because you don't really get a feel for it with it on it.
So a lot of people ask, how does it handle? Like, how comfortable is it going down the road? And I like to think of it as like how I explain a 1-ton truck, or like our 1-ton dually that we had.
Yeah.
On smooth, nice roads, it's comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
It's a firm ride, but it's nice, and I think it's fine on nice roads. What happens is you get to like the bad parts of the country where the roads have those big expansion joints, and you're like,
There's like no heat gets in there from,
and you're really like hitting these, the areas of the country like 40 out of Santa Fe and a bunch of spots on I-10, and those are the ones that you feel. Then it feels like a straight axle truck, and you feel that less comfortable ride. But for the majority of it, and going kind of on slow, nice roads, it's pretty comfortable.
Yep. Yeah, I think that the feel of the drive itself is super comfortable. And it is a nice, powerful engine. So when you're like merging on, or if you're in a lot of traffic, this thing has some pep to it. When you need to hammer down in that event, like you're merging in front of a semi, for example, or something like that, there is zero drag. It has power. Going up hills, going up steep inclines and grades, you never have that doubt in your mind of, oh, this thing is going to struggle.
I think the diesel engine's a big selling point in RVs like this. Gas engines can certainly do it nowadays. They have some really nice, powerful ones. But the diesel gives you that low-end torque, where it just goes smoothly and powerfully.
You just feel super comfortable driving it, and it's easy to drive. You don't worry about blind spots. You don't worry about anything. It's just like driving a big Super Duty truck around.
Yeah, even the overhead C body that's, over the windshield, that you see it a little bit if you lean forward. That, I think, took a little bit getting used to.
Yeah.
And that's the next point we're going to talk about, is the actual overhead bunk, because I was kind of surprised that I like it. So we didn't 100% know if this area was going to be our favorite. I don't really like the looks of Class C's, but now, I'm used to it, and I'm like, this is a really functional space.
Yeah, I will agree. When we were shopping at different floor plans, this seemed like it would be a waste of space, just because we know we won't be sleeping up there. And we thought that we would like to have actual storage cabinets instead. But once we got into this and we started using it and living in it for 6 months, we realized that this is one of the most underrated things. This is our number one surprise of things that we love. The biggest thing is it's a drop zone. It keeps, when you're parked somewhere and you're living somewhere, things just surface as far as clutter. And having this, it's basically like an elevated countertop for us, so we can put stuff up here, things that need to be out of the way, so that our kitchen and our dinette and this livable space keeps clean and clutter-free. This is a mattress that slides forward. You can keep it in its mattress position all the time. We've left this pushed up the entire time. And we like it this way because it makes it easier to get in and out, and it also brings a little bit more of natural light in. So this area in itself has blown us away in how much we love it and use it. And also an extension of the cubby is this little cabinet. We use this as our dog station. We put our leashes, dog food down there, all the harnesses. They have a bunch of stuff. And then this little tiny extension of the kitchen countertop over here fits our Berkey perfectly. Let me tell you, we were ready to give up on the Berkey entirely. We were exhausted by it. We've had this for almost 6 or 7 years. I'm not exactly sure, but we were to the point where we didn't want it taking up any of our major kitchen countertop. And having this spot here is perfect. It fits, and we keep it and we use it, and now we love it.
So the Berkey, there's nothing wrong with it. We like it. A lot of people use it. It's just, as Chris said, after time, like you get sick of just filling it up every single day, having it on your counter. So we talked about doing like a built-in water system, you know, like a reverse osmosis or something like that, which I still think is a great idea.
I still think I'd want that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the bunk, it gives us that area. It gives us this clean wall, which we use as our Dyson station. I'm not lying, because this is so convenient to use. I Dyson a couple times a day, and it's really easy to keep clean because it's so convenient.
So probably the one thing we would change if we could kind of redesign this entire bunk area, we definitely keep the side windows. We like those a lot. We use those for venting with the Max Air fan for the dogs without them being able to get to them. So the windows on the back of the couches, the dogs can sometimes like push through the screens. These are nice out of the way up windows. And we love the front skylight too. Like that's a big deal for us. But changing, I kind of thought like, what if these windows were maybe a little smaller and a little taller? So they'd be up here in the corner and they'd be like a rectangle style. So you still have venting, you still have skylights coming in, and you could still, you know, utilize them. But then this built-in storage could be a little higher, you know, I don't know what that would look like. Cabinet, something, some type of like extra built-ins for us.
While still maintaining that same open air feel, because another pro of the bunk is it just adds to your total open square foot in the living area. So even when you're sitting back on the kitchen dinette or even standing in the bedroom looking this direction, having that open space makes it feel so much larger in here. Another surprising thing that we turned out loving is the floor plan of this unit. When we were originally looking at different floor plans, we were gravitating towards the unit that had the smaller opposing front with the opposing dinette and the theater, and then it had the larger bedroom and the larger bathroom.
You were drawn to the big bathroom and the big bedroom.
I was.
You know, basically the floor plan here on the upfront living space, you know, your living room, if you will, and kitchen, it's a little more like galley style, I think.
So I agree. This is much more of like your runway, traditional motorhome type feel. You know, I really, really enjoyed this floor plan for this front living area. The only thing to consider is that the floor space is smaller. So if you do work out inside your RV, which we do.
Or anything else.
Or anything. I mean, I don't know what people do on their floor. That's just what I do on my floor. So this is a little bit more limited space for that, but it's still workable.
Well, if you got like, I don't know, little kids that like to sprawl out and have things, or, you know.
Playing with toys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anything you do with floor space, I guess. Bathroom?
Okay. All right. This bathroom makes my heart swoon a little bit. This is a nice, good squared off, more like rectangular bathroom, but a ton of counter space on this one. And storage. If you're the type that wants a lot of storage.
Yeah, I think this is a hands down winner.
This is a hands
on the
down.
bathroom.
On the bathroom.
Bathroom to bathroom comparison.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really nice bathroom.
Yeah.
Okay, bedroom, final spot. I love the big window right away. Look at that window.
Oh, yes. 2 windows. This one is like your money shot. It's always nice to know what's going on outside of your bedroom. This bedroom has so much storage in it. You got this. It's like a dual wardrobe. This one is plumbed for washer dryer.
Yep.
So what I picture in this unit is doing your laundry and then using this table for folding your clothes, which I love because you need a little space to fold your towels and fold your stuff. The stackable drawer is huge. I'm trying to be a minimalist person, but in all reality, I think that the storage in this and the bathroom is a little bit more comfortable for my preferences. I really like this one because you can, for a full-timer, you can have more stuff in here. As a part-timer, it might not be as important, and you might appreciate having that floor space of the previous unit that we just looked in. But then once we got into this unit with the open floor plan, it didn't take long for us to be pleasantly surprised and say, we almost made a big mistake on that one because this is the right one for us. We really need this open space.
Because we're in it full time.
Because we're in it full time.
That's a big point.
Yeah, and because we're working right here every day, the two of us are sharing this space. We're up, we're moving, and it's really important for us to not be stepping on each other throughout the day. The theater seats is another big surprise for us. They ended up being the most comfortable seats in the house. At first, we thought they were a little gimmicky, but the recline is awesome. We can even recline these seats while the slide is in on travel days because the floor plan is so open, it allows for that. Another thing about these theater seats that we love is behind it, there is some storage. So we can put soft items like jackets, swimsuits, shopping bags, totes, things like that.
Not just like a little bit of storage.
There's a lot back there.
There's a lot back there.
There is a lot back there. The windows, we do love all of the windows in here. However, if we could make a change, Aaron would still want to see more windows. He would still want to sacrifice these uppers and find a new home for that stuff, and then bring these windows up so that they match the other windows in the kitchen. But it is nice to have the theater seats that are super comfortable because at the end of a long day, we always find ourselves there.
We didn't know if the actual two-person love seat was gonna be kind of a deal breaker because we have two dogs.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the two dogs are in the seats and that leaves us with having to, kick them out or make room. But I think the love seat is good enough. I mean, obviously a three-person sofa would be much better, but then you got to have a longer RV.
Yeah, and one thing that helps with the dogs is when we do have it on recline, the dogs will lay down on the reclined part where our feet are, and that helps make us a lot more comfortable.
Okay, let me talk about something that maybe I would like to see changed is the cushion in the dinette. And we're on opposing sides on this one. Chris thinks it's super comfortable.
I do. I like the dinette.
I think it's a little too soft.
In comparison to other dinettes and other RVs, this felt like, oh, this is the best one we've ever had. And I still feel like it is. And I work here almost all day, every day, because I like having the table for my typing and my laptop. So at the end of a workday, yes, it does get uncomfortable for me after sitting for 8 hours or whatever it is, but that's not necessarily the seats. That's just me and my body screaming at me to get up and move, right?
Yeah, I appreciate Dynamax putting the big storage in these with the spring style seats. And, that's going to make them last a lot longer.
Yeah.
I would just like them to be like a little bit firmer. The love seat is probably twice as firm as these are. So if you have a little bit more weight to you, you squish down and then it kind of just you don't feel as supported.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my only change. But otherwise, having the dinette and the love seat was a big deal for us with the big open space.
Yep. Still love having both.
And we're getting a little bit of feedback from people that are liking the opposing seating that Chris was talking about before, which is the love seat there and then the dinette over there. So it's a little bit more conversationalist.
Yeah. Yep.
Which we would like to have in a perfect world, but then you sacrifice a lot of floor space, right?
Yeah, you do.
So we didn't 100% know if this size kitchen would work for us. We came from a pretty big fifth wheel with a pretty big kitchen size in the fifth wheel with a big walk around island and, like a full L-shaped kitchen. Motorhomes are a lot smaller. So we knew that we would like having the extension, but we didn't know that it would be so critical. Like this little extension saves the kitchen.
It really does. It is a critical thing. That is surprising how much we need that. We use it all the time. It's up all day long, and I love it. Another thing that we love about this kitchen that we were surprised about is this built-in trash compartment. So you have access to your garbage without opening up cabinets. And I use it all the time. Aaron was a little skeptical of that, but we both use it, we both love it, and we are sold. And now I can't imagine having an RV kitchen without one.
So some things we would change?
Some things we would change, well, right here, it's not the TV placement that bothers me, but it is the speakers, like the radio, listening to the music while I'm cooking dinner. It is very loud on the person in the kitchen preparing food.
We solved that problem.
We did solve that problem with getting a mini speaker to put over there. We have a Bluetooth speaker. I still want my induction cooktop, the stove. The propane burners, there's nothing wrong with them other than I use them several times a day and it's constantly dirty, and I hate having to clean this, removing this grate and wiping it out clean a few times a day. It just really gets irritating.
Yeah.
Oh, the pantry.
You know, that would be another thing that you'd want to make a little bit bigger if you could.
The pantry is still one of those things where I'm grateful for how large it is. But I do kind of groan and complain a little bit when I need to access the things that are in the way back. So you really just need to be strategic with, putting lesser used items buried deep in the back and your everyday used items front and center.
Yeah. Oh, and the little potato drawer in the bottom. I think there's room down there to add one more heavy drawer.
Why not? Why not just put a drawer right there?
Also in the kitchen, we had 2 little warranty things so far. Both of them just recently happened at the very end of the 6 months. One was a little water drip underneath the kitchen sink that Chris found. And I have a water alarm down there, but it was in kind of the wrong spot. So luckily we caught that. No damage was done. It's a really easy fix. And then something that just happened was the back microwave bracket
Oh, yeah.
fell off during driving, and we almost lost our microwave.
Yeah. We were driving and we heard a noise and we didn't know what it was. And then later when we stopped for fuel, the bracket that goes back here, it's like the mounting board that holds the microwave up
To the wall.
It was just completely down, and the microwave was a little bit dangling, kind of talking to us. So we're lucky that the whole microwave didn't fall, and we have a temporary solution on that. And the big surprise in the bedroom, it still stands where everybody wants to know about this folding mattress. The folding mattress is something that prevents a lot of people from getting this model. And the surprise for us is that it really doesn't impact our day-to-day life. It's not a big deal that the folding mattress exists. When you're traveling, the slide is in and your bed is essentially unusable. We were a little bit nervous about how that would impact us, but it does not.
Yeah, there has not been anywhere that we haven't been able to sleep in 180 nights
Yeah.
that we couldn't put out the slide. So there are obviously a few areas that some people might run into issues with that, but for the majority of us, not a huge deal.
Yep. So if we were to change anything in here, it would be to make a little bit more floor space around the bed because it is tight in here. But the tightness is not because the bed folds. The tightness is just because it's a small area to be sharing with the bathroom. So getting in and out of bed with 2 dogs on the bed can sometimes be a struggle to get your feet on this ground and get your body out without disturbing the other people in the bed. So in order to make that happen, you'd have to give some length or do some major laying out of things.
Yeah, I think that could be an option to have a little bit longer of a motorhome. And so this is a queen, like a short queen, I guess you'd call it. You could maybe get like a king wide if you added some length to the motorhome.
Mm-hmm. But another thing that we would love to change in here is to have some sort of a headboard on the headboard wall, because right now with this, it's kind of scratchy, it's noisy, and not very comfortable.
I don't know why I'm talking about shrinking windows, but yeah, if that window needed to be a little shorter, more rectangle, I guess that would be okay. I would say the bedroom windows are some of the ones you keep closed.
They're the least used windows.
The most, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're in an RV park.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, your neighbor's going to be right there. So if you're out boondocking, you want your windows open, that's awesome. But for the majority of the time, like big giant windows in your bedroom sometimes isn't all that beneficial.
Yeah.
I can't believe I just said that. I think what I'm trying to say is the window behind the bed is less important because you can't see out it while lying on your bed, and it also makes it harder to control the hot or cold outside temperatures. Here on another floor plan, you can see the big windows across from the bed, and then behind the bed is just a nice comfy headboard with side windows for ventilation. Maybe the best of both worlds.
The ventless combo washer is another surprise. Prior to having this ourselves, we were always hearing horror stories from other users that did not like the ventless dryer, saying things like it didn't work well or it creates too much humidity in your living area, lots of things like that. But we surprisingly really like it. And I feel like it works just as well as the vented. It works differently though. So instead of having that dry electric heat, you have more of a wet, humid steam dry, which sounds weird, but
you have a wet dry.
You have a wet dry, and it uses water to dry, which actually that would fall into the what we would change is it is kind of an inconvenience.
Yeah, it's a little weird getting used to that. Hearing it running in the background when you're doing a dryer cycle, it takes you some getting used to with it. And then another thing for Aaron, when we are packing up or preparing for a travel day, one of the items on his list of tasks is filling up the fresh water. So you can't be filling up the fresh water while using the water. So if I'm doing laundry, which I usually am, if we're like getting ready to leave a full hookup site, I'm usually doing the laundry on the same day that Aaron wants to be filling up the water. So he either needs to wait for the dryer to be done, or we pause the dryer so that he can do a tank fill, which can take like 45 minutes up to an hour, depending on how slow the water is. I'm happy with it. We wouldn't, I don't know, would we survive without it?
No. No, I love my ventless combo washer dryer. If you're on the fence about getting a ventless dryer because you've heard horror stories, do not fear. They are great. They work awesome. And if your situation in your RV doesn't allow you to cut a hole in the wall for a vent, don't sweat it. Get the ventless. It works great.
Another area of concern for the storage is the outside storage. I'll actually show you all the bays really quick while they're empty. So this one's right next to the door. This one's actually a steel box and it's completely sealed up in there. So we know that one is probably pretty good for rodent proof. Here's the big pass-through. I'm going to try to get the bikes in. Here is a second giant 5-foot bay. This one's insulated. And then there's one more pretty good sized bay. And look at the pass-through. That goes all the way to the other side.
Okay, let's talk about the exterior of this Dynamax. We really had no idea if the outside storage of our 33-foot fifth wheel would line up with this 34-foot Class C. And we were pretty excited when it did all fit, especially our folding e-bikes. We really didn't want to add to the RV's length with a bike rack, and even though the bikes do take up a good portion of 2 entire bays, it's totally worth it to us. So all of the passenger or campside bays are completely open for storage. We use the smaller first one mainly for our excessive amount of shoes and our overstocked dog food. The next large bay fits one of the e-bikes perfectly, along with our ramps and blocks for leveling. I keep some tools and miscellaneous items in here, and it has a 3/4 pass-through storage on the top for those less used items in totes. The next bay fits the second e-bike and still has room for a few randoms like tools and our air compressor. This is also a heated bay where the black and gray tanks are, and on the other side is the wet bay compartment. The last bay on this side fits our grill, tables, and a medium-sized tote. This also has a complete upper pass-through that you could store items like a ladder, chairs, fishing poles, or really anything that's long and narrow. There's not a ton of storage on the driver's side, but you can find areas to cram in some more stuff if you need. In the rear, I added a cord reel for the 50 amp power cord and also the triple water filter and hose on travel days. My Starlink box fits nicely in there as well. The next bay is the wet bay, as I mentioned, and after removing the sewer storage tube and 12-volt heater, I had enough room to store my 15-foot sewer hose and sewer supports. I keep my black tank flush hose in there hooked up with its own water pressure regulator for fast and easy usage. Works great. There's a built-in single water filter in the back, but since we use the triple water filter, I took that one out to help with water pressure. This little compartment here is the two 300 amp hour lithium batteries, and right next to that, the 8K Onan diesel generator. Powers the entire RV and hasn't given us a single hiccup. The last bay here houses all the electrical work for the solar, transfer switch, and 3000 watt inverter. There's not a dedicated DC to DC charger here for the batteries, but there is a lithium battery isolation manager which connects and disconnects the house and chassis batteries. It also allows for alternator charging to the house batteries and is about the equivalent to a 30 amp DC to DC charger. My only improvement would be to add a dedicated 50 amp DC to DC charger, or even two of them if you wanted to get crazy. Because at 30 amps, it would take 20 hours of driving to charge your empty 600 amp hour lithium batteries. So realistically, if you only drive a couple hours, don't expect too much. This is also where the 1000 watts of solar on the roof helps kick in and give you a little bit more. You all might remember there was a flow issue with our def hose in this compartment as well, which made filling it pretty difficult and a two-person job. I'm happy to report they fixed this issue when we visited Dynamax earlier this fall by adjusting the angle slightly up. We tested it out recently at a truck stop and all worked well. I've mentioned recently that this is one of my favorite awnings we've ever had. It has two lights, it's legless, and an automatic wind sensor retraction. Also, it has a 2-stage pitch for optimal shade, wind, and water mitigation. It works with your phone and also has a one-touch operation, so you don't have to sit there and hold the button. Love it. Overall, we're extremely happy with the exterior of this rig, and we really love the solid gray color. We get asked all the time about it, and people really seem to enjoy seeing something a little different.
All right, should we move on to our next surprise in the bathroom?
The biggest surprise in the bathroom?
Our biggest surprise in the bathroom is the shape of it and the function of it. When we first got in here, it's a little oblong. It's a little abnormal for a footprint of a bathroom. It's long and rectangular. And at first, we didn't really know how that would translate to using it. But we surprisingly like it. And we use every inch of it just naturally. It feels good when you're using it. We like the layout. But with that, of course, there are a couple of things we would change. The first big change that we would do or look into would be making this door a pocket door. Well, the big thing for me is when I'm standing at the vanity getting ready, the door has to be shut. I can't be in here with the door open, so it gets hot in here. This bathroom is hard to get the right temperature, keep the right temperature. It seems like if the weather is hot, it's really hot in here. The door is always shut, so it doesn't get the full AC that's blasting in the rest of the RV. And same in the cold weather. If it's really cold outside, it's cold in here because the door is always shut and it doesn't get a good flow from the heating and the AC.
Yeah, and I'll add the holes. There's a lot of holes in a small space. So you have a skylight, you have a max air fan, you have a really large window behind you.
Yeah.
And then you have a TV in the medicine cabinet
Right
for the
here.
outside, which is like a 42-inch TV.
Which we've turned on how many times?
0. So there are 4 big holes in a small space like that. So again, man, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I would maybe shrink that bathroom window, because if you think about it, we crack it and then use the fan like normal people, I guess. But it's an opaque window, so you can't see out of it. If the sun is shining on that window, it's really hot. So you got to keep the shade closed most of the time. So I just, I think it doesn't need to be that big.
Yeah. The other thing I would get rid of is this old Thetford toilet. I'm sorry, I am not a fan of the Thetford toilets. I am a fan of the Dometic 310s because it does not have the 360 rinse around the bowl when you flush it. it just rinses from the back. So it makes it really hard to clean. I'm not going to get into like dirty talk, but it's hard to clean the bowl, and it's also hard to clean the seat because the seat has these little plastic compartments that you have to like individually wipe out each thing. It's a pain to clean.
I think RV toilets is like politics and religion. Like you just got to choose one.
I like my Dynamax. Anything else in here that you would change?
No, I love the big shower where we
love the shower.
Yeah, the shower turned out to be great. We talked about putting a caddy on the wall, but we found a spot to put one on the floor.
Which works great.
That works great. That solved that issue.
Yep.
But I will say how surprised I am that I like this Firefly a lot. So we came from a manufacturer that kind of has a different stance where they want all physical switches because that's what their customers are asking for, physical switches for everything. Easy, you know, and foolproof. And I like those. But in today's age, everything is run by a computer, your phone, you know, your laptop, like your car, everything. So I like having this. Actually, I'd like to have both. Like physical switches all around would be great, which this does have quite a few, but I'd like them everywhere. And then this thing you can use from your phone. You can control, you know, from this tablet, like anything you want to do. So a lot of times I'm outside. When we get to a campsite, I will use the leveling from my phone while I'm outside, looking at like the levels for your black, gray, and fresh. I'll do that outside.
That's super convenient for filling.
Yeah, filling. And if you're like flushing your black tank, you can sit and physically watch your black tank go up, you know, and not
the scariest job ever.
Yeah, not have that big mistake happen.
Yes, yeah.
So either on the Firefly panel, the bedroom wall panel, or your phone, you can start the generator. And that was probably one of my biggest surprises that I shouldn't say this out loud. I'm kind of liking the generator a little bit. I've been pretty anti-generator ever since I first started researching RVs, like back in 2017. I really like the idea of solar. I love lithium. I love being able to run everything quietly and easily. But having this built-in 8K diesel generator that's easy to use, it's fairly quiet, it runs the entire RV, having it, you know, so readily available is kind of turning me a little bit. And I don't want to get too used to it, but I will say it did take me a little bit to get used to running that because we've been running, you know, everything off of lithium and solar for so long that it just feels weird to fire up the generator to turn on the ACs. So we did make some really big changes we'll talk to here shortly, and that was one of them.
So yes, that was a pretty big change we wanted to make right away. And when we visited Dynamax this fall, they did switch the air conditioner breaker onto the inverted circuit. So what does that mean? Well, we can now run the AC on battery power. The electrical system that comes with this Dynamax was plenty powerful enough, but it just needed that one adjustment. So now we can override the Firefly EMS system to run the AC while going down the road, sitting in a parking lot, or overnight at a campground that doesn't allow generator use. While we were there, we had them add another 400 watts of solar up on the roof, bringing the total to 1400 watts, which really helps with charging the batteries. They added a soft start as well, and so far it's been great to have the extra flexibility of the AC. The second big change Dynamax did was to have MoreRide add a 2-inch lift to the RV. I got to watch the whole process, and I was pretty impressed with how quickly they were able to change out the parts. We've only had one spot this entire time where we actually needed the lift. And if you don't take your RV off pavement, you might be better off without one. But we're excited to be able to take this thing a little farther off the road and not have to worry about doing any damage. There's a whole lot to review on these two big upgrades, and we'll be sharing more in an upcoming video. We appreciate everyone watching, and we'll see you on the next one.
Ever wonder where the name Irene Iron Travels comes from? It's actually named after my online fitness and nutrition coaching business, Irene Iron Fitness. I help people move better, feel better, and eat better with strength training and real food. No fad diets, no harsh restrictions, no counting calories, and absolutely no processed food in a package.
If you want to get stronger and feel better at any age, check the description below for the links with my new client special, or join in on our next and upcoming group challenge.